poor teacher helped a crying girl. After school, unaware his father was a billionaire CEO who'd lost his wife. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon at Maplewood Kindergarten. The golden light of late autumn streamed through the windows, casting warm shadows on the small chairs, cubbies, and craft-covered walls. Angela Evans, 26, stood by the art corner, tidying up watercolor palettes left behind from that morning's painting session. Her soft, honey-blonde curls were tied loosely behind her back, her face glowing with the quiet joy of someone who truly loved her work. Outside, most of the parents had already picked up their children. The usual post-class chatter had faded into silence, all except for one small sound, a soft sob. Angela turned quickly and spotted a little figure in the far corner of the classroom, curled up near the reading rug, wearing a pink dress and holding a worn teddy bear tightly against her chest. "Rosie?" Angela said gently, approaching. The little girl didn't look up. Her golden curls, tied in two pigtails, trembled as she cried silently. Angela knelt beside her and placed a calming hand on her shoulder. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Rosie sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her sleeve. "Ba quen con Roy," she whispered, eyes still downcast. Angela's heart clenched. "Maybe he's just running late," she said softly. "Let's wait together, okay?" Rosie gave a tiny nod. Angela led her to the teacher's lounge, a cozy, quiet space with bookshelves, a small couch, and a kettle humming faintly in the corner. She poured a cup of warm milk into a child-sized mug and added a dash of honey. Rosie sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, still holding her bear. Angela handed her the cup. "This always helped me feel better when I was little." "Did your daddy forget you too?" Rosie asked, eyes wide. Angela smiled sadly. "No, but sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. It doesn't mean they don't love you." She sat beside the girl and began humming a gentle lullaby, brushing her fingers through the child's soft curls. Slowly, Rosie's breathing calmed. Her eyes fluttered shut. Outside, the clouds gathered. Within minutes, the first drops of rain tapped softly against the windows, then poured in steady sheets. The sound filled the quiet room, peaceful and rhythmic. Time passed. The sky darkened. Then, hurried footsteps echoed in the hallway. Angela looked up just as the door swung open. A tall man stood in the doorway, drenched from the rain, his black suit clinging slightly to his frame. He looked composed, but his eyes scanned the room with urgency until they landed on the small figure sleeping peacefully on the couch. "Rosie," he breathed. Angela stood instinctively. The man stepped forward. "I'm sorry, I lost track of time. A meeting ran late." Angela gave a polite nod. "She's okay. Just a little worried. And tired." His eyes lingered on his daughter, then flicked to Angela. "I appreciate you staying with her," he said, voice clipped but not unkind. "Thank you." There was a pause. Then he added, almost as an afterthought, "I'm James Alden." Angela blinked. She recognized the name. James Alden, CEO of Alden Motors, billionaire. Reclusive. The man who'd become even more of a mystery after his wife's death the year before. "I'm Angela Evans," she replied softly. "I teach Rosie's class." James nodded. He walked over and gently scooped Rosie into his arms, careful not to wake her. She stirred slightly, her arms wrapping instinctively around his neck. Angela watched the tenderness in his movement, surprising, given the guarded tone he carried. Just as he turned to leave, he looked back once more. Angela was standing near the couch, arms crossed loosely, her expression gentle. Behind her, the rain framed her figure in soft gray light. Rosie's small pink blanket was still draped over the cushion where she had slept. James hesitated. His eyes met Angela's. There was no exchange of words, only a brief, vulnerable look of quiet gratitude, confusion, and something else he couldn't name yet. He nodded once. Angela nodded back, and just like that, the door closed behind him. But in the hush that followed, the sound of rain still falling, and the warmth of a little girl's presence lingering on the couch, something new had begun to take root. Something neither of them expected. James Alden was a man known by many names: visionary, genius, billionaire. But very few knew the quiet ache he carried behind those sharp suits and boardroom eyes. Since the day his wife died in a car accident a year ago, he had become even more withdrawn, his life shrinking into a routine of long hours, closed doors, and hollow victories. In public, he remained composed. In private, he was unraveling slowly. Rosie, only 3 when it happened, had cried for weeks before her young mind protected itself with silence. Since then, she had lived mostly under the care of a rotating team of nannies and drivers. James thought it was best. He did not know how to be both a father and a man falling apart. He tried to love her from a distance: expensive toys, the best doctors, private ballet classes, but none of it brought light back to her eyes. Until she met Miss Angela. James noticed the change on a Tuesday morning. Rosie insisted on carrying a folded piece of paper in her tiny backpack, guarding it like treasure. Her nanny said she had stayed up late coloring it. That evening, James returned home later than usual. As he entered Rosie's room, she held up the paper with excitement he hadn't seen in months. "It's for Miss Angela," she said, her voice brighter than he remembered. "Can I give it to her tomorrow?" James glanced at the drawing. It was messy, but clear. 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. One was labeled "Me," one "Miss Angela," and the last had a question mark. "She makes me happy," Rosie added. "Can I go early tomorrow, please?" James stared at her. Then he nodded. The next morning, he personally drove her to school, an unusual break in his routine. He stood by the classroom door, arms folded, sunglasses hiding the fatigue in his eyes. Inside, Angela Evans knelt beside a group of children, helping them stack blocks. She looked up when Rosie ran to her. "Miss Angela, I drew something for you," Rosie shouted, her pink backpack bouncing. Angela took the drawing with delight. "This is beautiful, Rosie. Is that me?" she asked, smiling warmly. Rosie nodded, her pigtails bobbing. "And who's this?" Angela asked, pointing to the 3rd figure. "That's my daddy," Rosie whispered. "But he's always busy." Angela's smile softened. She gave Rosie a quick hug. James, still at the doorway, heard every word. For a moment, something twisted in his chest. Angela looked up and noticed him. "Mr. Alden," she greeted, walking toward him with a calm presence that unsettled him in a way he couldn't explain. "Rosie insisted," he said. "She had something important to deliver." "Well, I'm glad she did. She's quite the little artist," Angela replied. He nodded politely, already turning to leave. "Oh," she added, "this Saturday, we're having a class picnic. Parents are welcome." James raised an eyebrow. "I don't usually attend school events." Angela smiled. "You might be surprised how much it means to them." Rosie looked up at him with wide, hopeful eyes. He hesitated. "I'll consider it," he muttered. Saturday came faster than expected. He spent too long choosing what to wear. He arrived late, but Rosie's face lit up the moment she saw him, and suddenly, he didn't care who was watching. Angela was organizing a group activity under the shade of a large oak tree. She looked radiant in a simple sundress, her golden curls pulled half up. Rosie tugged him toward her. They sat on a picnic blanket, watching the kids play. For a while, silence sat comfortably between them. Then Rosie tripped, scraping her knee. She burst into tears and rushed into Angela's arms. Angela gently wiped the dirt away, holding Rosie close. Her voice was soft but clear. "Your daddy loves you very, very much, Rosie. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to show it, but that doesn't mean they don't feel it with all their heart." James froze. Those words, so simple, hit something deep inside him. He looked at Angela, still holding his daughter with such tenderness it made his throat tighten. He turned slightly, pretending to check his phone, hiding the shift in his expression. Something inside him had begun to move. It was a warm, golden Saturday morning when Maplewood Kindergarten held its annual picnic at the lakeside park. Sunlight filtered through the tall trees, laughter echoed across the grass, and the scent of fresh dough and paint drifted through the air. Parents gathered with their children for a day of outdoor fun, ring toss, painting ceramic animals, and the most popular station of all, the cookie-making table, shaded beneath a large oak tree. Angela Evans stood there, sleeves rolled up, gently helping the little ones scoop and shape cookie dough into stars, animals, and hearts. Her golden curls were pulled back loosely, her smile calm and reassuring as always. A familiar voice rang out across the park. "Daddy, please help me," Rosie called, tugging James Alden by the hand, practically dragging him toward the cookie station. James looked uncertain. Out of his element in a casual setting like this, he hovered behind the crowd, watching. Angela looked up and smiled. "Mr. Alden," she greeted warmly, "you're just in time. We're short one head chef." She held up a tiny apron with flour-dusted hands. "This is the official uniform today. Hope you're ready." James chuckled awkwardly but took it, slipping it on over his crisp polo. "I've never made cookies before," he admitted. "First time for everything," Angela replied. "Rosie's an excellent teacher." They began rolling dough together, Rosie laughing as she shaped hers into a lopsided heart. She placed it carefully on the tray, but it slipped from her fingers and broke in two. Her smile vanished. "I ruined it." Angela knelt beside her and gently picked up the pieces. "Not ruined," she said softly. She pressed the heart back together and used a bit of icing to seal the crack. "See this?" she whispered. "Sometimes the things that break become even more special if we don't give up on them." Rosie's eyes lit up. "Really?" Angela nodded. "Really?" James watched silently. Something in Angela's voice stirred something buried deep inside him. Without saying a word, he reached for a clear cookie bag and gently placed the mended heart inside. Then, picking up a purple marker, he wrote a single word on the label: "Hope." Angela looked at the word, then up at him. Their eyes met, no words, just a shared moment that felt heavier than it should have. He gave her a small nod. She returned it, the corners of her mouth softening. Rosie held the bag like it was a treasure, her face beaming. "Thank you, Miss Angela. Thank you, Daddy." James sat back and looked at them both. Angela wasn't just a good teacher. She was someone who understood how to mend things that weren't just broken on the outside. And for the first time, he felt something shift, not in the world around him, but within. It was not the cookie that undid him. It was the quiet realization that maybe, just maybe, someone was helping him do what no amount of success or money ever could. She was helping him heal his daughter's heart, and somehow, his own. After the picnic, something shifted in Rosie. She became more cheerful, more affectionate, more alive. Every day, she spoke about Miss Angela, what she wore, what story she read, how she smiled when Rosie got the answer right. Her drawings were now full of rainbows, hearts, and one constant figure, a blonde woman with long, wavy hair. She named her dolls after Angela. James noticed, of course. How could he not? But he told himself it was just a phase, a sweet attachment that would fade. Deep down, though, he knew better. Then one Wednesday morning, Rosie woke up with flushed cheeks and heavy eyelids. The nanny called James at work. "She's got a slight fever, nothing serious, but she's refusing to eat, and she won't take her medicine." James rushed home and sat on the edge of Rosie's bed, medicine bottle in hand. "Come on, sweetheart, just one spoon, okay?" She shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "Only if Miss Angela says it's okay." Frustrated but worried, James called Angela. She picked up quickly. "Mr. Alden?" "It's James," he corrected. "Rosie's sick. I've tried everything. She won't take her medicine unless you say something." Angela paused, then gently offered instructions over the phone. But even as she spoke, James heard soft crying in the background. "Daddy, please. Can Miss Angela come here?" James hesitated, then sighed. "Angela, if you're not too busy, could you maybe come over? Just for a bit? I'll be there in 20 minutes." She arrived with a canvas bag containing oranges, a small jar of honey, 2 homemade cookies, and Rosie's favorite picture book. Her presence alone seemed to lower the child's fever. Rosie perked up just enough to drink a full glass of warm lemon water and cuddle into Angela's lap. James watched from the kitchen doorway, silent, grateful, and stunned. Later, as Rosie drifted off to sleep on the couch, breathing slow and deep, Angela stood and stretched gently. "I think she'll be fine, just needs rest." "Thank you," James said. Angela nodded. "Where's the restroom?" "Down the hall, second door." She walked quietly, her steps light on the hardwood floor. But as she passed a room with the door slightly ajar, something caught her eye. She paused. Inside was James, no longer the powerful, sharp-suited CEO. He sat alone in his study, hunched over a worn leather notebook. On the desk were scattered papers, framed photos, and a delicate perfume bottle collecting dust. Angela took one step closer. The notebook was open. On its yellowed pages were delicate lines of handwriting. A woman's handwriting. His late wife's. Angela didn't mean to read, but her eyes fell on a few underlined phrases. "Rosie likes when James uses the Pooh Bear voice. If anything happens to me, please tell her I loved her every single day. James isn't perfect, but he's the kind of man who will fight for his child with everything he has." Angela stood frozen. Her heart ached, not from pity, but from the overwhelming tenderness of witnessing something so private, so raw. She didn't speak. She didn't knock. Instead, she gently closed the door and left him alone with his grief. In the days that followed, James began showing up more often. He lingered after school. He asked deeper questions, not just about Rosie's progress, but about Angela's life. One afternoon he asked, "You're so good with kids. Did you ever want your own?" Angela smiled softly. "I did. I lost my mom when I was 6. My dad raised me with books and bedtime stories, but I missed having a woman's hand to hold. Maybe that's why I try to be that for my students." James didn't respond, but in his silence was understanding and admiration. Rosie, meanwhile, glowed. She sang more, danced more, laughed more. One evening, as James drove her home from school, she leaned her head against his shoulder in the back seat and whispered, "Daddy, I wish Miss Angela was my mommy. Then I'd get a goodnight kiss every night." James felt something inside him break open. He did not speak. He just pulled her close, held her tightly, and stared through the windshield as tears slowly filled his eyes. Not because of pain, not because of the past, but because, finally, he saw a future. The warmth that had been steadily building between James and Angela began to tremble under the weight of his doubts. He could not deny it. He felt something. It was more than gratitude or admiration. It was the quiet comfort of being seen in a way he had not been in years. Angela's presence was gentle and steady, never demanding, never trying to impress. But that only made James more uneasy. He had seen this before. Attention, smiles that turned into interviews, invitations that became ambushes. Ever since he had become James Alden, Billionaire CEO, people saw him as a headline, not a man. After his wife died, the vultures came, reporters posing as friends, women who smiled too wide, too fast. Angela wasn't like them, and yet, the fear lingered. What if he was wrong again? One evening, he invited her out for dinner, not at his mansion, but a cozy, family-friendly Italian restaurant just outside the city. Rosie had begged for it, and Angela had agreed with her usual kindness. They sat at a table tucked into a quiet corner. Rosie colored happily between them with crayons. James watched as Angela helped his daughter draw a sun with sunglasses. She wore a soft navy blouse, her golden curls loosely tied back. She was beautiful, yes, but it was her calm that captivated him. Still, the doubts pressed. When Rosie went with a waitress to wash her hands, James leaned forward. "Miss Evans," he began. Angela looked up. "James," she corrected gently, "I think we've shared enough cookies and sick days for you to drop the formality." He paused, then asked, "Do you know who I am?" Angela blinked, then smiled faintly. "I know your name. I know what you do. I know people probably talk about you more than they listen to you." James stared at her, surprised. She continued, soft but steady. "But none of that matters to me. What matters is that you're Rosie's father, and I see a man trying to be her hero. Even when he's scared he's not enough. That's the man I care about." He sat back, taken aback by her sincerity. No flattery, no curiosity about his net worth, just honesty. It touched him more than he expected. Still, he held back. Old wounds do not close easily. A few days later, that distance shattered. It was close to noon when Angela noticed Rosie wasn't herself. The little girl was quiet, pale, and not touching her crayons. Angela gently touched her forehead, and her heart dropped, burning. Without hesitation, she scooped Rosie into her arms and rushed to the school office. She called James while the nurse tried to help, but Rosie whimpered, clinging to her. This was no mild fever. Angela didn't wait. She buckled Rosie into her car and sped to the nearest children's hospital. James arrived 20 minutes later. His eyes scanned